certainly if he goes to Michigan. I don't know where he's going to go, but I know Michigan is certainly high on his list. And we have a great one there now from our school playing for you guys. So, that probably doesn't hurt either. So, Chris Jenkins, of course.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Happy Monday. Woo! We're clocks are sprung forward. We lost that hour. Hopefully you've adjusted by now. Hopefully, you get into the arguments on, daylight savings time and whether or not you should accept an NIT bid. That's when you're living right, when you're getting out there arguing about those things. We'll talk about the NIT bid, not daylight savings time. So we're ready to kick this one off. We're live weekdays at 1 o'clock talking about the latest in Michigan sports here on the Maize and Blue Review. I already see with the feedback, Andre's jumping in, talking some recruiting. So he's excited to go. And so am I. So let's just tell you, we have that NIT to get to for Michigan as they accepted the bid. We'll jump into that a little bit. Michigan hockey is headed to Minnesota. It's just like they were last year for the Big Ten tournament title. We'll touch on that. But the big recruiting weekend is where we start. And we'll just get to Andres, who has one of the big stories regarding Michigan this weekend. Andres saying, happy Monday to all. He's asking if I saw about the Notre Dame commit Brandon Hillman. And the answer to that is yes. I did see that there was not only a decommit, he was let out of his national letter of intent. So I think he signed. I don't know. Why he's being let out of it or whatever else. But I do know that there are a lot of teams, including Michigan, that are interested in the safety Hillman. So he could be somebody that could be added to this Michigan football team. So we'll have to see on that. It brings me to an overall point, Andres, with Michigan. It's something, as we sit here and talk about a lot. We talk about if Michigan is in good position, Michigan football, I guess basketball too, I guess all the sports, when it comes to the rules and name, image, and likeness and pay to play and the transfer portal and all the things and where they sit. And, we monitor it. And if you recall last year at this time, Michigan wasn't doing great in recruiting. And I predicted that they would finish on the outside looking in of the top 25. They did a little bit better than that, but they didn't do great, especially considering how they did on the field. And I said, I'm going to give them I wasn't giving them a break. I was going to give them a year to see how they, how they were working this. There's no foolproof plan. There's a lot of people like, look at all the teams that paid. They're all a joke. The ones that, threw a lot of money. There's a point about that. But, at this time last year, there was a lot of teeth gnashing about, well, Michigan's not going to pay players. And they can't get anybody really in the transfer portal, even though they did. I mean, they got Olatimi, which was a great find in the transfer portal. And they've been able to select some, but nothing like, going in there and just grabbing player after player until this year. They were able to go out there and get the Magnificent Seven, which was a huge deal. And nobody saw that one coming. I didn't see that one coming. Maybe there were some people that saw it coming. I didn't see that one coming. And that's something that you look at and said, okay, that's a pretty big deal for Michigan. Andres mentioning Brandon Hillman. And the thing about it, like this guy, maybe he's an outstanding player, whatever, welcome addition, you bring in some talent, hard hitter. Harbaugh likes him, that kind of stuff. But when you start looking at the scholarship situation for Michigan, you're like, wait a second, something has to give here. Well, where's this scholarship coming from? Michigan's got so many scholarships out there. At some point, you're wondering, Well, what's going on? And I think you have to wonder what's going on. And if Michigan has got something, I don't know if it's up their sleeves, but I remember, I don't know if it was last summer. I think it was the summer before that it was Texas Tech. They were talking about name, image, and likeness. And Texas Tech revealed that they were going to pay all of their players a certain amount of money. I don't remember what it was, $15,000, I think. I could be way off on that, but it was something like that. $15,000 they were going to give all of their players. And then the note on that was additionally, they were going to pay 10 walk-ons the $15,000 annually. And I thought, wait a second, now that's a pretty slick move. So you have your 85 scholarship players, and then they're going beyond that, and they're going to give 10,000 to walk-ons. And I thought, what if this is Texas Tech? What if you supersize that in your Michigan, and you were like, we're giving the scholarship players X amount of money, I don't know, $20,000. We're also giving a select 10, 15 walk-ons an extra 15, 20,000. And then when they're sophomores, we're giving them 25 and 30. And then when they're juniors, we're giving them 45 and 50. And then when they're seniors, we're giving them $75,000, something like that. All enormous amounts of money. I'll grant you that, but it's not pay for play. It does fit in a little bit to this Michigan profile that they talked about. If you stay, you will be rewarded, in this tier system, they would. And whether you call it a loophole or you just call it, I don't know, smart business, you can have your 85 scholarship players, but can you pay additional players scholarship, well, not scholarship money, just flat out pay them, so they can help pay for school? Maybe you could pay for their food, their training table, and anything else that you get, through the Nike and anything else. Who knows what kind of sweet deal? Maybe these guys, maybe they're getting paid, and they're able to get a scholarship, but not the traditional scholarship. Maybe that's something Michigan's doing. Now, I'm not for sure, and maybe Michigan doesn't want to be like, wait, they don't want everybody to know this. But when you look at the amount of players that they're bringing in, the players that are coming in and the players that are going out, a lot of players coming in, there's not a lot of players going out. And you think, well, at some point there's going to be a mass exodus. And, you look, I was looking at it this morning at the roster. I could easily see 10, 15 players hitting the transfer portal after spring, but maybe not. Maybe this is just something Michigan is doing, and this is one of their ways to, meet the teams that are, waving the cash before guys come in. Something to think about. And it reminded me when I saw Andres, talking about Hillman, because Michigan really doesn't have the room to bring in Hillman. And yet it just seems like they can bring in anybody. They don't seem like they're all that worried about the scholarship limit. So maybe he gets a scholarship. Maybe he just gets NIL money, and maybe it's the same thing. I don't know how they treat it and what they're doing, but just something to monitor, something to keep an eye on if you're a Michigan fan. If you're a Michigan fan and you want to know, this was a interesting weekend for recruiting. Guys coming in left and right, different guys, all this. If you want to know how that was all shaken out as it was going on, well, if you are a member of the Maize and Blue Review, you know that all the stuff that was happening in real time, and you know what's going to happen next week and the following week, and all about not only football recruiting but basketball recruiting, and you're up to speed on all that. And right now there's a great deal going on at Rivals where you buy 1 month and you get 4, count them, 4 free months, and you can get full access today. Use the promo code UMSpring23. That's UMSpring23. I know about Brady Prieskorn. UMSpring23. And then we'll see you over there getting it done. Now, as monitor for the recruiting this weekend, and I got on to Twitter at one point on Saturday, and I saw Albert Karshnia, Michigan's director of recruiting ops, tweeting out, Ann Arbor is buzzing today. He put a go blue. He's got the block M. He's got the Michigan emoji with the, I don't know, it looks like a lightning, but Michigan has adopted it as a block M. And, if you know about Michigan this week, they were bringing a bunch of players in. And here's the recruiting director of operations talking about Ann Arbor is buzzing. So that got everybody all fired up. And some of the players, and I could go through 36 players or so that were in here. And I've just selected a few. One is Shannon Goodwin, who is a wide receiver out of the 24 class. He's a 3-star wide receiver, 6'1", 175 out of Providence Day in Charlotte, North Carolina. Now, if you've been paying attention to Michigan and recruiting, when you heard Providence Day in Charlotte, North Carolina, that probably piqued your interest. They say, hey, isn't that the same school as Jaden Davis, the quarterback, the 5-star quarterback that Michigan is after? And you would be exactly right. Credit yourself there. Jaden Davis's Providence Day, Charlotte, North Carolina teammate Shannon Goodwin was in this weekend. That can't hurt Michigan. They're also Ship is another wide receiver. They got a hell of a team down there. I got to tell you that. But they got 2 wide receivers, and both of them are interested in Michigan, and the quarterback is interested in Michigan. And then they've got another couple players on there that are, they got some 4 and another 5-star that I'm sure Michigan would love to have. If you're thinking about, you would love to have a pipeline to Charlotte, North Carolina, and Providence Day specifically over the next 2 years, I could say, I think that's what Michigan would like. That's what they're hoping for. That's what they're looking for, and all of that. So having Goodwin in this weekend was something that's good, and you feel good about that if you're a Michigan fan and you see the school in Providence Day, and about Charlotte, North Carolina, and about Jaden Davis and how Michigan later on this month, they're going to have Davis in. So you get Davis in, you get Goodwin in, you get Ship in. I mean, like you're thinking, can this all really happen? I'm thinking about it. Michigan's thinking about it. Now you're thinking about it as well. And as far as those quarterbacks go right now for this upcoming year, it is remained the same. Michigan is still, all in on Jaden Davis. I mean, they are all in. It seems like that is the only guy right now. All of their eggs are in the Davis basket. There is a top quarterback out there that Michigan has been associated with, named MVB, Michael Van Buren. And I still put him up there because I think there's some interest in MVP. I think he's wondering what's going on with Davis, and he's waiting to see how that plays out. But, he's still out there. So he's still somebody to keep in mind if you're a Michigan fan when it comes down to QBs. And as mentioned, Davis, he's expected in Ann Arbor later this month, maybe at the spring game. And that would be good. It was at the spring game. Why? I'm going to the spring game. Speaking of QBs, this guy is from Belleville, Michigan. He is the number 2 player in the country in 25 and the number 1 quarterback. His name is Bryce Underwood. He was in Ann Arbor this weekend. Underwood it looks like a prodigy. I saw him as a freshman. Look like a senior in college. Look like you could have put him as a freshman in college in an NFL uniform and had him throwing in an NFL practice, and then people would be like, who's the big fella over there at quarterback zipping the ball all around? Oh, that kid's a freshman in high school. Bryce Underwood. This guy is a monster. And he was in Ann Arbor over the weekend. Obviously, everybody in the world is going to want Underwood. He is right in Michigan's own backyard. Your eyes and my eyes are all over Underwood here. We'll see, if Michigan's going to go all in on Davis, then they're going to go all in on Underwood. We don't know how all these things are working. A couple weeks ago, we talked about another quarterback, Cutter Boley. He's somebody to keep in mind for the 25 class. And then somebody that was in also this weekend, he's out of Ohio, a 4-star signal caller named Ryan Montgomery. So you keep tabs on all of these guys and, to see how it shakes out. AM asking, it's sounding like Michigan is doing well with the 25 quarterback recruits. How do you feel about Michigan getting a bridge type transfer quarterback if Michigan doesn't get Davis or MVB? Well, I would feel like that would be the route that they would go. And I think the transfer portal, you just look at the transfer portal from this last year, we could probably sit here and name 10, at least 10 big time quarterbacks, big time programs that, brought players in. It is something that is used. Michigan has gone after transfers, as you know, in the Harbaugh era before at the quarterback position, and now you can get them like that. I think that is something definitely that they would be looking at if things don't go well with Jaden Davis. I almost don't like saying that, but let's be honest. Just saying it is not going to affect anything in, you just might think it is. Now, Underwood wasn't here this weekend. He is the number 2 player, as mentioned, in the class of 25. And just look at the measurables here. 6'3", over 200 pounds, pro-style quarterback. And as mentioned, you only have to search out and watch the videos here to see a guy who looks like an NFL quarterback right now. Stature, he just looks like it when you say, I don't know about, maybe you say, no, he looks kind of young. All right, maybe in the face. Put a helmet on him. He's every bit as 6'3". The 200 pounds, 205 that he's listed at, most of that weight is in his legs. And he's got Andrew Luck type bot frame, where you're sitting there and watching him throw the football. Great arm as well. Or 6'3". I mean, this is a prototypical quarterback that you want. He was in Ann Arbor over the weekend. That is going to be somebody in the recruitment that you are going to watch forever. This guy was in here this week as well. So you put his name down and you remember it, and you like the measurables here too. 6'3", 200 pounds, Findlay, Ohio. Ryan Montgomery, 89th nationally, so a top 100 4-star quarterback, and that's why we have him listed. He was in, and obviously Michigan likes him, and he was checking it out as well. And in those the 25, we talked about the quarterback out of Kentucky in Cutter Boley, who's 6'5", 200. There you go. That's some of the stuff I was thinking about over the weekend with recruiting, but not just that. This guy, Brian Robinson, is a name. If you don't know it, I think you should footnote it, and I think you should say the name a few times. It's an easy one to remember. Brian Robinson, Brian Robinson, Brian Robinson. Well, he is a 4-star linebacker out of Youngstown. That immediately makes you think, I want him. Youngstown, Ohio, edge rusher, has all the measurables there you want. 4-star, has the ranking. Every time I look up, this guy's in Ann Arbor. He's spending more time in Ann Arbor than he is in Youngstown. That makes me think that he really likes Michigan and that Michigan really likes him. So I continue to every time. I mean, look, I just sit back and watch this stuff like you. And every time I notice that this guy, Robinson, the linebacker out of Youngstown, Ohio, is in Ann Arbor. So that's something to monitor for sure. Remember the name if you didn't by now. That's where I'm sitting with recruiting. We could sit here for the next hour or so and go over the different players and all the guys that were coming in. That's what the Maize and Blue review is for. You can go on there and check that, and you can entertain yourself, all day with what happened this weekend. I threw some highlights for you there, and I will do that throughout the week as well. So that's where I'm sitting. Let's move it over and go to basketball. I know you might not want to do it, but the news is that Michigan has accepted an NIT bid to play Toledo tomorrow night in a 7:00 tip at the Chrysler Center. The views on Michigan playing in the NIT, it is a rough one. It is a no-win situation. There are plenty of Michigan fans who would rather Michigan just accepted that it was over this year and just went into the night like North Carolina, shut the book on this season so you didn't have to, think about them anymore or, endure maybe another tough loss. But that's not what Michigan's doing. They accepted a bid. They are not going the North Carolina route saying that NIT, we didn't make the NCAA, so we're not going to the NIT. We're too big for that, whatever it is. I think that I think it shows that you got problems with your team when you can't accept a bid. Now, it's not all sweet music and everything for Juwan. This is not the NCAA tournament. I know you know that, but everybody will remind you all of the time. Nobody cares about the NIT. Nobody cares about Michigan basketball. Nobody cares if you win this thing. You will be you're a joke. You have to accept all that. And that is from like your big time fans that are saying that. Never mind, what your rivals are smacking you upside the head with when it comes down to the NIT. It is rough. And that's why for some people, and I know that there's a lot of people that I know that take this approach, that it's like out of sight, out of mind. I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to listen to Michigan State or Ohio State or anybody else just sit here ragging on me and talking about the NIT. And then what if they lose? I got to go through it all again. No, but this is what Michigan is doing. And, they are playing. Now, this is a tough matchup against Toledo. Toledo ripped off, 11, 12 wins in a row at the end of the season before losing in the MAC tournament. This is a team that won in the Rockets, won the Mid-American Conference regular season. They are a good team. And you know that Michigan, the last time they played a MAC team, CMU, who Toledo beat twice, CMU beat Michigan. The other MAC team that they played, Ohio, took Michigan into overtime. The other MAC team that Michigan played, EMU, Michigan survived against in an entertaining game against Eastern Michigan. Toledo's better than all of those MAC teams, and Michigan's got them 7:00 tomorrow. Woo! That's going to be a tough one. And, you're at home, so you think, okay, that'll be nice. But I don't know. Back in the day, I went to some NIT games, for Michigan, and it's a different feel. And there's not going to be, thousands of fans there. There'll be hundreds of fans there. And so that can work against you. Like, you're normally, the fans get behind you and everything else, but you got a smattering of fans, and you look over there and there's maybe a lot of Toledo fans because Toledo had a really nice season, and they can just jump on 75 and be up there. There might be as many Toledo fans. That place might be rocking for the Rockets. So it's going to be a tough game and everything else. And Michigan's got to deal with that with Toledo. And if you're following the NCAA tournament, I think some of you understand what's going on here. Just mention how tough Toledo is, and they are. If Michigan beats Toledo, they will likely have to play Vanderbilt. If you watched ESPN yesterday, Dick Vitale couldn't stop talking about Vanderbilt and Clemson. Hey, how come Vanderbilt? What's Jerry Stackhouse have to do, baby? I mean, that's all that he kept saying, was talking about Vanderbilt. So Michigan will have to go on the road to play Vanderbilt, who felt like they were snubbed in the NCAA. They were one of the 2 or 3 teams that got snubbed. Like, I've given my feelings about getting snubbed before. There's so many teams and you have so many chances that getting snubbed when you're talking about 68 teams and your 69th and 70th teams. All right, you got snubbed, but you had plenty of opportunities to do things. But Vandy definitely felt like they were snubbed. Another team, if it wasn't Vandy that felt like they were snubbed, was Clemson. And if Michigan, if it just holds up, just how I see it with the seeding, Clemson, the 1 seed, Vandy, the 2 seed, Michigan, the 3 seed, you got Michigan, Toledo, tough game. You got Michigan going to Vandy, tough game. Then you would have Michigan going to, if it held up, Clemson, who felt like they got snubbed. That is it's the NIT. Those are 3 tough games. And I know that, people are bad mouthing Michigan and, NIT and nobody's interested and all of that. It happens when you don't make the NCAA tournament. That's part of it. You just have to accept that. I look at it like beggars can't be choosers, that kind of thing. And if they can win a few ball games, it'll be good for them. The practice time, the game time for the coaches and the players. But if Michigan loses to Toledo, it's just going to be a reset of getting slammed. I mean, you just have to, and again, that's going to be from your own fans. So you just got to be ready for that. A little bit of a gamble. But I would say, and I think Michigan will deserve it, that they'll get a little, that they're going to hear it from their fans if they lose in the first round of the NIT to Toledo. They're going to hear it, and I think they deserve it, a little bit of that. But if Michigan beats Toledo and they beat Vanderbilt and they beat Clemson, those are 3 real nice wins. And for what it is, I'm not talking about, hanging banners or they've turned a bitterness into, they've made lemonade out of lemons. I don't know. They've used turned chicken feathers out of chicken salad. I don't know, some of that. It'll be. I'll give them some credit here before it starts and before they tip it up. If they beat Toledo, Vandy, and Clemson, I'll be impressed by that. I'm not going to be ready to, throw a party. I'm not going to be ready to throw a parade, anything like that. I'm just saying that there'll be 3 nice wins. And if people I get that people are upset with the team, that it's the NIT, that just goes with the territory. When you're Michigan and you don't make the tournament, you just have to deal with that. And boy, if they lose against Toledo, that, barking even becomes louder, even from your own fan base. So a little bit of pressure. I like that there's some pressure on this team. Like, they're going to really hear it if they don't beat Toledo. But if they win 3 games, I think this should, a little bit of a golf clap, for the team. And then heck, if they go, and I think it's in Vegas and win the NIT, a little bit more of a golf clap. That's all. Well, some golf clap for Michigan. Jason says, if you get a bid to the NIT, you take it. These players and coaches need to practice. Yeah, I agree, Jason. What you find, though, is that there are a lot of people, they don't care about the players or the coaches or the program. They care about themselves and how they get treated online. And so they would just rather be out of sight, out of mind. And, that's just how it's going and how it's going. You can't put a bow on a piece of blank. Can't put lipstick on a pig, Andres. Is that kind of really the same one here? JP doesn't expect them to win, yet they really needed to figure out what the actual game plan is moving forward. You can't practice game speed. I love it, NIT baby. I like the energy. I'm not quite there saying I love it, NIT baby, but I'll be there tomorrow. I'll be watching it. Normally, I watched so much basketball the last 4 days. My head, it's a little bit like, all right, I don't need any TV. I'll just wait till Thursday. Give me 3 days, maybe zero TV. Except that Michigan is now playing tomorrow, and I'll be watching that. So it's altered my plans. Oh boy, you won't know a Toledo fan until you're right up on them. That's right. They've got the little. It's a dark blue, like I don't know, like midnight blue, and you're right. A Toledo and Michigan fan, you don't know. All of a sudden, you'll be sitting there like go blue, and they'll be like go Rockets. Whoa, what? Eddie, jumping ahead to our final topic, we want to talk about some hockey. And so let's just get there. Let's do it. Oh, before that, for your entertainment purposes, I have gone through the brackets for you. If you're looking for an expert and you can't figure out who to pick, these are my 4 teams. I picked Arizona. I like their size, and I like 25 Kerr, their shooting guard. Arizona, I like the UCLA too. I've watched Arizona a few times this year. I think that they can win it all. Arizona, I've watched a lot of basketball this year. I've watched mostly Big 12 games between Kansas State, TCU, Texas, Iowa State, and Kansas. I've watched all of these teams all year long, and I kept saying, when it comes tournament time, I'm picking Big 12 teams. That's why I ended up picking Kansas State. I like their road out of the other teams. I almost picked Texas in there. I like TCU, but in the end, I like Kansas State's path the most, so I picked K-State. This is a dangerous selection for me, Indiana. People that just go by the numbers, and they'll be like, you'll Ken Palmet, or you'll look at, a lot of other different factors, and you watched maybe some basketball games this year. You don't get the bias of having watched the team. I've watched so much Indiana over the last month that I've grown to like the Hoosiers. I like their coach, Mike Woodson. He was an assistant on the Pistons' last championship team. I like Hood Schifino, Trace Jackson Davis. I like their guards. I like the Indiana Hoosiers. This happens to me every year. It's amazing that every year I say, I'm not picking Big Ten teams again. I picked them last year and said that. I'm not picking Big Ten teams again. And then here I am. If you were sitting here a month ago, I said, I'm not picking any Big Ten teams to get past the Sweet 16. They're all going down. They're not any good. And yet here I am. I'm picking Indiana. I don't want to root for Alabama with what's going on with their team. You want to bet on them? Go ahead. They're a great team. I saw what happened with Houston, with Sasser. What are they? They got run off the floor. UCLA's got an injury. And so, there's some teams in there with the injuries that I don't know about. That's why I picked Indiana. In Kansas, they got the look of a championship team to me. That's why I made my picks, and I have Arizona over Kansas. Do with that what you will. And, I'll mock myself when it doesn't come through. So that's fine. Meanwhile, Michigan, I was in this game. I have to admit that I tuned into the game like a minute late, and Michigan was already up. And I was like, whoa, that was good. And then they scored again. And then the Buckeyes came back, but then they went to some video review and they waved off a Buckeye goal. And then Michigan scored again, and it was over. I mean, it's 2-0, which is the most dangerous score in hockey. the team that makes it 2-1 has the momentum and they're looking really good. But if you score and get the other one 3-0, it was over at that point. Michigan, of course, hangs on and they win it 7-3. And they are on to Minnesota to play for the Big Ten tournament title for the second consecutive year. The last, I saw Michigan take on Minnesota in the regular season about 3 years ago at this time. It's the last road venue that I've been to for a live game, which is incredible now that it's 3 years going to the Mariucci Arena there to watch Michigan for the weekend to take on Minnesota. It's a nice building. It's an easy flight. Minneapolis is nice, kind of like the weather outside here. That'll be an extraordinarily entertaining game, and then it's on for the Frozen Four, which all of those games they're as good as the NCAA tournament. So I'm looking forward to all of that. Yeah, Indiana's going to be a disappointment. Sure, they can be. And if it wasn't for that, more Michigan, the women's team is in action. St. Paddys Day. I don't have the time here yet. Get your corned beef and cabbage. One of the few days all year long you can wear green. Some people don't wear green. And, when you're a real diehard Michigan fan, you say it's one of the only days of the year you can wear green. When you're a real Michigan fan, it's I don't even wear it on St. Paddys Day. Okay, and you're pretty. That's a diehard Michigan fan. I'll give it to you. I've said this before. I like St. Patrick's Day when it's on a Wednesday. I don't like it when it's on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It interferes with the basketball. And yeah, I mean, I can eat corned beef and cabbage, and I can watch basketball, and I can drink a green beer. All of that can happen, but St. Patrick's Day can stand on its own. And those other 4 days, they can stand on their own as well. I'm going to recall a few. Maybe I think about St. Patrick's Day and some of the years gone by. I can remember the St. Patrick's Day from a few years ago when Michigan was playing Houston in the Sweet 16. And I was at B-Dubs with a friend of mine. We went to a Irish bar that was next door. They had a tent and all this, but their TVs were really small. So we went to B-Dubs. And there weren't a lot of people there, but by the time, halftime, the place was packed. But there must have been just all Michigan fans. And if you remember the Michigan-Houston game, it was a terrible game for 59 minutes and 59 seconds. 59 minutes, 57 seconds. Pretty much looked like Michigan was just walking like to the gallows. I mean, it was over. It was torture. Michigan wasn't playing well. They didn't look good. It was Houston. And then somehow in the last couple seconds, Michigan gets the ball and they throw it to Jordan Poole and he throws up a shot. And the rest is history. That place went crazy. You could hear people talking from across the restaurant. Oh, there must have been all Michigan fans in there. Everybody's like, great game. You could hear just the knives and the spoons and everything, even though the place is packed. Everybody's watching the game, like, great game. Well, when Poole hit the shot, it touched off such a celebration in that place. It was wild. I should have done this. I should have gone back and asked for the footage. Because the footage would have been a bunch of people in the place sitting around like this. And then when the shot went, everybody started running. It would have been a great piece of film to get if it would have happened. But I'll also give it up to my brother whenever it's St. Patrick's Day. He lived by an Irish bar, and it's over on Woodward. I don't know. O'Toole's, maybe? I don't know. It's a double-decker Irish bar. But he always said, come over the day after St. Patrick's Day. Why is that? Well, he would go to O'Toole's, and they would be running because they'd still have green beer and they would still have corned beef and cabbage. And my brother, like, I guess for the ambiance and all the the fanfare of St. Patrick's Day, and you have thousands of people packed in there. It's like that's what it's all about. Not for my brother. The next day, they would sell green beer for $1 for like a gigantic glass, and whatever your corned beef and cabbage was, $12. It would be like $1 for a plate. Dollar for a plate of corned beef and cabbage, 10 cents for green beer. More than 1 year. We were over there at noon the next day. Everybody, like, you could tell the waitresses, their heads hurt. Everybody that was in there was hungover. We just came strolling in like, got those 10-cent green beers? And there wasn't anybody else in there. We had the place to ourselves. Ambiance? No. Green beer for 10 cents? Corned beef and cabbage for $1, all you can eat? Let's go. Those were the good old days. That's how it went down. Let's look at some of the feedback before we leave you. And Andre says, Indiana seems to always disappoint in the tourney, at least in my lifetime. Yeah, well, the Big Ten hasn't won a championship since Michigan State in 2000. So it has been a while. Of course, Michigan's been to a couple final games. Illinois in there. I'm trying to think of anybody else. That's been about it. So the Big Ten, it used to be. I can remember because Jim Boeheim at Syracuse retired last week, and I can remember being in high school, having some friends over in high school and watching Indiana and Jim Boeheim's Syracuse team. Derek Coleman had a chance to win the game, but he missed the front end of a 1-and-1, which set up Keith Smart with 4 seconds to go, hitting the shot, and then, Bob Knight won again. So they used to win Indiana, but it's been a long time. It used to be. And why I'm picking him, here I am. I'm doing it. It's happening. Eddie talking some hockey and says Michigan beats Minnesota if the game is over at the end of regulation. If it goes to OT, Minnesota wins. I know why you say that, Eddie, because that's the way it's gone the last few years. Michigan's got, they can score and they can skate with Minnesota. The Gophers goaltender is put up some pretty spectacular numbers, but Michigan's got the goaltending too. So when you have two high flying teams like that, to me, I'll go to, specialty teams, and, whoever is able to stay out of the box and whoever is able to win the special teams battle, I'm going to go with that team to win it. And one last one comes in from Andres, who says Michigan has definitely made some shots that make you jump out of the seat in the tournament in the past 10 years. Yeah, you put Trey Burke in that one as well. Trey Burke, that long shot against UCLA in the Sweet 16, that was an unbelievable shot as well. That was to get it into overtime against Kansas. Kansas. I said UCLA for some reason. Kansas. Yeah, Kansas. That was incredible. And then, the pool shot was something else. Kent, talking some Toledo basketball. They are hungry after winning the MAC and being left out of the tournament. Kent, I'm not going to lie. They are hungry. They're as hungry as me on a Saturday after St. Patrick's Day, going in for $1 corned beef and cabbage and 10-cent beers. That's it. All right, there he goes. JP's with me. It's going to come down to the power play. We'll be with you tomorrow. Whatever's going on in Michigan sports, of course, we'll one of the topics is going to be Michigan and Toledo in the NIT. Guess what? Another topic is going to be football. We'll see what unfolds over the next 23 hours. We'll see you at 1 o'clock. Thanks for watching, subscribing, thumbs up, and all that. Take care. Have yourself a great rest of the day. Bye.